identified myself as I'm unemployable. I got fired from the bagel shop that I worked at, Broadway Bagel, and then I got fired from Disneyland, but then I got a job at Adventure City. I got fired from there. After I got fired from that third job, I just saw myself as unemployable. Not because like, man, I'm a good risk taker or a visionary or whatever. I just figured I'm unemployable. No one likes what I think are great ideas, so I'm gonna go start my own thing. It's a Cinderella story in the end, but it is a bloody, murderous, triumphant fight in the beginning decade that no one sees because it's just you. Did I have resilience? I don't think I had resilience. I just felt like there was no other option. I was like, you got to make it yourself, big boy, because you're unemployable. To have myself unemployable, so I figured my only option is to build my own job.
Remember, adversity is your advantage.
My dude, B, welcome back.
We are back, Bryce. Let's do this.
All right, so we're going to talk about entrepreneurship, and you certainly are one of the most sought after and accomplished entrepreneurs I know. My first question, we're going to talk a little bit about the good, the bad, the ugly, how we overcome adversity, all that. But from your lens, B, was entrepreneurship factory installed in you, or was this learned?
Yeah, well, for me, it's a learned thing. I don't think entrepreneurship for me is factory installed. And I would go off and say that I would say probably, this is just a guess, but 90 to 95% of all successful entrepreneurs, it is a learned skill, a set of skills and traits and behaviors and habits. Mm-hmm. I think it's probably 5 to 10% of entrepreneurs that are born with factory installed ability to just understand communication, leadership, marketing, persuasion, sales. I think that's a small percentage. The lion's share of entrepreneurs, they're learned and they're developed. I'm one of those people. I think you're one of those people as well, right?
People,
yeah. And I think that's the best way because it's like a muscle. You know, some people like, you know, you might see a kid and you're like, wow, how long have you been working out? And like, never. And actually, I remember Phil Heath. You know, he spoke at BK Live a couple of years ago. He played basketball in high school and college, and they would be like, man, how long have you been bodybuilding? He's like, I don't. I play basketball. He was just naturally a muscular, lean dude with big muscles, short tendons, so everything looked full. Mm-hmm. And so that was, you know, he's genetically designed to be a pro bodybuilder, hence why he became a 7-time Mr. Olympia, right? There's factory installed. The rest of us have to work our nuts off and eat like champions to put on muscle and to maintain that muscle.
Totally.
And that's what I think it's like. Entrepreneurship is like a muscle. Most of us have to develop it. And when you do, you value it more anyway.
Yeah, amen to that. I mean, for sure, from speaking for myself, it's definitely developed. I would say the little bit of factory installed that we both have is the value of freedom. Because I feel like entrepreneurs, they're chasing freedom. They want freedom of their time control, their own life, their own schedule. Also, a little bit of the ability to take risk. I think those two things, if you have a little bit of that, you know, factory installed, all the other skill sets you learned, speaking for myself, have just been learned. The good guy above did not download me from the very beginning.
Right.
And I think that, you know, for me, that's a message to you. You're listening to this, you're watching this right now. There's hope, there's opportunity. It's a learned skill set, and that's the big value.
Yeah,
So
that's a good point to make, man. That you know, you might have a few of the necessary traits, right? Maybe some people have greater amounts of focus. Some people are more of a risk taker. But none of us really have the full formula. We have to develop it. Yeah. And that is a gift to everyone out there because when you see we were talking about Zuckerberg earlier, the Zuckerbergs, the Jeff Bezos, all the big time entrepreneurs that have made it, the Elon Musks, you're like, I bet they were born this way. No, you go back and you could see that they may have had one or two of the traits, but the other dozen or two traits and skills were all developed.
amen to that.
Yeah.
All right, so from your lens, B, when did it dawn on you? You're like, hey, I want a different way. I'm done trading time for dollars. I want to, take a crack at this entrepreneur thing. What did that look like for you? And then really, I want to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, not just like the glory, which everyone now looks at us, looks at you, being like, God, this guy has made it. Yeah. But I want to talk a little bit about, what it took to get there.
Yeah, well, for me, looking back now, I value freedom more than anything.
Oh, yeah.
Like, time freedom, freedom of thought, freedom of access. However, I remember always like being an idea kid. Like I had an idea for doing things better. Like, oh man, I think I could be a better DJ than the music that I'm hearing out there. I remember working at Disneyland as a busboy and coming up with a better idea for bussing tables. So at Disneyland, we had bus tubs. A bus tub. So, like when you're eating at a restaurant, there's that round tray. When they're going to take the empty plates off the table, they put on that round tray and they'll stack them. Disneyland, because the restaurant I worked at Carnation Cafe was so busy, we had tubs. So they had these walls. The tubs were rectangular. They had walls. Well, I realized we can probably, and we were taught to bus 3, maybe 4 tables, and then that bus tub is full. I realized that I got a better idea. If I take the plates off the first table and I set them up this way, so I take the 4-inch wall and now I make it a 6-inch wall, right? And I use the other plates and cups and put in the center to hold the walls up. I can now bus 6 or 7 tables in one swoop instead of 3 or 4.
Built a better mousetrap, baby.
Built a better mousetrap. Efficiency, of course. Then when I was excitedly told my lead, I guess you can say restaurant manager, she was like, no, you can't do that. It exceeds the weight limit and that will cause an injury and then we'll lawsuits or whatever. I was like, oh, that sucks. And I was kind of disappointed. And I remember when I later got promoted to work in the kitchen, I created a better system to work the grill. And again, my idea was shot down because it was violated the process and the system that Disney had, right? That's when I was like, you know what? I want the freedom to do things my way. So freedom to me came second. Ooh. I just kept coming up with better ideas for doing things. At least in my head, they seemed like better ideas, right? I mean, my first official business, TotalMuscle.com, in 1997 was an online supplement store.
Where you spent a lot of money on...
And failed miserably.
Yep.
Right? So my first idea was, hey, instead of going to like a GNC and buying supplements, what if I can just mail order it to people's homes? Because AOL, America Online, had the dial-up internet. Yeah, exactly. You remember that. So I had a clunky little website made of all the same supplements available at a GNC, and then you would pay online. However, I didn't know how to market because there was no social media to market on. There was no paid ads. There was no Google search. None of that. Back then, it was just AOL, and then I think there was like Earthlink, and then there was like chat rooms.
Oh, yeah.
And so I would find chat rooms on weightlifting, bodybuilding, fitness, and then I would be like, hey, if you guys are looking for supplements, go to TotalMuscle.com and don't buy it from the supplement store. Like, we're cheaper, and we'll just deliver it to your house. Well, I couldn't do that fast enough and enough times to sell supplements to the point where they wouldn't expire. So I always have more expired supplements sitting in my spare bedroom of my apartment than I was able to sell. So ultimately I went out of business, TotalMuscle.com. But I share this too with you because I always came up with like a better mousetrap. Just sometimes your ideas as an entrepreneur aren't ready to launch yet. Sometimes if you're too far forward, like today, there's online supplement stores that are crushing it, right? Bodybuilding.com and all these whatever. Amazon is sell supplements. But I was just like probably a decade ahead of my time. But I share that with you because that is what led me into entrepreneurship. And I was like, if I could just find a better way to do something, people will figure it out. And one failure after another, I eventually figured out the 1 or 2 things that worked. And then hence I became a great entrepreneur.
That you are.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some other failures.
Yeah.
After you launched that, what was next on the totem pole in terms of business trajectory?
Yeah. So TotalMuscle.com had several problems. Like those of you that have websites today and you're like, man, it sucks. Imagine like today, all websites, whether you use Shopify or just any website that you're going to buy something from, there's something called AVS. Address verification service, right? So that we want to know that when this purchase was made on this website and the credit card was used, it truly does belong to Bryce. And we know that because the address that he put in matches the address on the credit card. And the shipping address might be the same or it might be different. That's fine. But the AVS, address verification service, tells Bryce to put in that little secret PIN that's on the back of the card. So if I had just swiped your credit card numbers and the expiration date, but I don't have the secret PIN, then the purchase won't go through. So I can't defraud you. Well, back then, didn't matter if the credit card was stolen or not. It would get processed. There was no address verification. Yeah. So, I remember one of my first big orders was like a $1,500 order. And the person had ordered from Houston, Texas. And I live in Anaheim, California. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to package this up and send it away right now this afternoon. So the order came in the morning. By 12 noon, I'd driven to UPS and put the box in the mail. It was gone, on its way. 2 weeks later, the proper credit card owner got the bill, and they clearly realized that their credit card had been compromised and used on my website, and they did a chargeback. When they did a chargeback, of course, I lose the money, plus I'm out the supplements. right? And I'm out the shipping cost, and I'm working out of my parents' bedroom, spare bedroom at the time. This was before I had even moved out. And so, like, you really take an ass kicking in the beginning. I think part of the muscle building, the entrepreneurial muscle building process, is to like take an ass kicking at first. I suppose there's smarter people than me who made it out the gate, but I didn't. So totalmuscle.com, that was I couldn't market well because the platforms didn't exist and address verification didn't exist. So accepting credit cards online was touch and go. And then later, by 2003, so that was 97, 98. By 2003, I created High Tech Trainer. The first iteration of High Tech Trainer was Palm Pilots, right? So before the iPhone, there was Palm Pilots, a PDA, personal digital assistant, and it would sync up with your calendar. You might be able to connect to the internet, kind of clunky, wonky, but you would. And the whole idea there was if you can't afford to get a personal trainer at a big box gym because it costs too much, you can just check out a Palm Pilot, your High Tech Trainer, right? You would check out the Palm Pilot. So you pay, let's say, an additional $59 a month to the big box gym, and you can come anytime, check out a Palm Pilot, say, punch in, I'm training back today, or I'm training legs today, and it'll show you a series of workouts to do. Pictures, start and end positions, sets and reps for your goals, and then you would walk throughout the gym, do the workouts, and then, dock your Palm Pilot back in to the front desk. Well, a lot of Palm Pilots were being stolen. And so like the 5 or 6 health clubs that we sold one computer and 15 Palm Pilots to, within a matter of months, we're like, hey, we're down to 2 Palm Pilots. We're like, where are your Palm Pilots? These things were like a couple thousand a piece. Like, oh, they got stolen. What do I mean stolen? There's no way to track. There's no AirPods or whatever, or Air Tags like we have today, right? So these Palm Pilots were just walking out the front door. People were stealing them. And so we realized that's a shitty business model.
Yeah, clearly.
So High Tech Trainer 1.0 failed. High Tech Trainer 2.0 became, by this point, internet's starting to kind of pop off. We're 2004, almost 2005, and we decided that we're going to make it direct to consumer. So instead of selling High Tech Trainer to another business to business, High Tech Trainer to a health club, we're going to sell direct to consumer. So you pay $49 a month to hightechtrainer.com. You would download your workout to your Palm Pilot, or you could print it out on a piece of paper. Like, remember MapQuest?
Oh, yeah. I used to print them out, and that's how I used to go anywhere.
Yeah. So you would print out your workout for the day, go to your gym and do it, come back to your computer, upload your workout results so that tomorrow it'll give you the next progressive overload workout for the next day. That also failed because online personal training was way too ahead of its time. So 2.0 failed. High Tech Trainer 2.0 fails, right? That puts me in a $126,000 debt because we had to rewrite the software. And Jim Franco was my bank, my first mentor.
Sorry to interject here. It just reminds me of this common theme. Sometimes visionaries like you and I, you're a grand visionary, put ideas to the market. Sometimes the idea is not ready to be attacked by the market. Exactly. It reminds me of, I want to say Steven Spielberg, when he created Avatar, the first prototype before he launched in 2010, he actually built the script in 2000, but the technology hadn't developed. So he actually waited on that script a decade and then finally produced Avatar.
Think about that.
So using that outside example, but applying it to your leadership journey.
That's on point right there.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. Visionaries can be so far ahead. Well, also to that point, I remember seeing a interview of Steve Jobs being interviewed by a news broadcaster in the late 90s. Steve Jobs. And you could see the frustration on his face in this news broadcast. And Steve Jobs is like, the phones of the future won't have hinges. And the broadcaster's like, well, then how will we close them? These mobile phones. Because remember, back then they had like the Razors and the Motorola's and whatever. He's like, you don't understand. They're going to be all glass. He goes, well, if they're all glass and there's no keypad, how are you going to punch things in? He goes, through touch. And you could see the frustration on his face, right? He goes, and it won't just be a phone. You can just connect. Connect to what? He goes, to other people. Because the internet was already starting to pop off. This is like late 90s, early 2000, right? And then he started describing what later became the iPad.
Oh, I was going to say the phone.
Yeah, well, he was describing the iPhone, yeah. But then he goes, imagine an even bigger version of what I'm describing, the size of a book. And so he uses his hands to show the size of a book. He goes, the size of a book where you could pull up the internet, you can pull up recipes, you could pull up videos, you could pull up your calendar. And the guy goes again, but where's the mouse pad? Where's the keyboard? He goes, there wouldn't be one. And you could see the frustration. He was just too far ahead of everyone. So visionaries like Steven Spielberg, like Steve Jobs, like you and I, we will sometimes come up with ideas that are a decade too far ahead of its time. However, version 3 of High Tech Trainer ended up working and getting me out of debt. Ended up working because the handful of people that bought version 2, one of them was a Sprint executive. Sprint, mobile phones. Mm-hmm. He was a Sprint executive that subscribed to hightechtrainer.com. He paid us $49 a month, downloaded his workouts. He reaches out to our corporate office and says, hey, I'm calling from Sprint, the cell phone company, and we have this thing called a jukebox. So before the App Store, people don't realize that Sprint had something called the jukebox. Mm. And they go, can you turn your High Tech Trainer online workouts or demonstration workouts, can you make them fit this dimension, this resolution for a screen on our flip phones? Talked to my programmer. He said, yes. I go, yes, we can. He goes, if you can, I can expose you to about 20 million phone users, right, of our customers. You can. How? Through our jukebox. They would pay $2.99 a month, and we would do a 50-50 revenue share. I'm like, I'm in. Now, obviously, 20 million people had access to the jukebox, but didn't all upgrade to the High Tech Trainer workout. But enough of them did where our 50%, so it took us about 6 months to develop the Sprint jukebox version of it. After 6 months, our 50% of the monthly revenue was about $22,000 a month. Bryce, I was blown away that Sprint was delivering my workouts to their end users through their what later becomes the App Store, right?
Yeah.
And so sometimes you have to just close a business down like I did with TotalMuscle.com. Other times it's iteration 3, 4, maybe 5. Uber went through several iterations. Mm-hmm. Airbnb went through several iterations. It's how much shit can you eat and keep going?
Well, I want to interject there because that was my next question. And this is, I'm leading the witness here, but this is the story of any very successful entrepreneur like us, is you put something out to the market and then you're going to get shot down. Resistance is going to happen, but you get up and you keep moving forward. And for me, a telltale quality of a strong entrepreneur is the ability to have resilience.
Yeah.
So from your perspective, B, is that resilience or was that resilience in you? Factory install, develop, both? And how can our audience learn more resilience so they can be more successful as an entrepreneur and leader?
I don't know if I would define it as resilience as much as I would say I felt like I had no other option because, you get fired from Disneyland for having ideas that you thought were good, but they didn't agree with. And so soon you start being a shitty employee and you get fired. That's exactly what happened. So I identified myself as unemployable. I got fired from the bagel shop that I worked at before Disneyland. And then that was on Balboa Island, Broadway Bagel. I got fired from there. And then I got fired from Disneyland. But then I got a job at Adventure City, which was a makeshift amusement park off of Beach Boulevard and Ball Road in Anaheim. And they were like, wow, you worked at Disneyland? I go, yeah. They're like, you're hired. You can run the restaurant here. Like where Disneyland had a bunch of restaurants, this place had like one little shitty restaurant. And I got fired from there because at the end of the night, I was actually the restaurant lead, the manager. At the end of the night, there was like pizzas and hot dogs left. The employees that worked there were college students. But the policy was you have to throw everything away and not just give it away to the employees. Because then if you did, then it might be that you accidentally make a little too much just so you can give more away. But I always made the right amount. I always make sure the restaurant made the right amount. But whatever was left over, I would say, hey, go ahead and take it, guys. You guys are hungry, starving students. Go ahead and take the stuff. Well, ownership found out and they fired me. So after I got fired from that third job, I just saw myself as unemployable.
I laugh because it's just comical to me, like looking at you right here, seeing how many people you employ, how many businesses you've launched, and in your self-proclaimed terminology, I'm unemployable. Yet you employ so many people, which is wild.
Yeah. So then the fourth job was working at LA Fitness as a personal trainer for Body of Change, right? And so I liked that job, and I guess it wasn't so much you got to run your own schedule. Actually, I guess it really wasn't a job. I was an independent contractor.
Yeah.
I got to set my own schedule. And I worked in LA Fitness, but I set my own schedule, had my own clients. But because I used the gym's members as my marketing base, I paid a commission to the gym, right? They kept a portion of the money. And so I guess I was unemployable. But that's what led me to becoming an entrepreneur. I just felt like, not because like, man, I'm a good risk taker or a visionary or whatever. I just figured I'm unemployable. No one likes what I think are great ideas. So I'm going to go start my own thing. That's how kind of Total Muscle came to be, and that failed. And then High Tech Trainer 1, 2, and then 3 popped off, and then became a personal trainer, right? And then Jim Franco was like, hey, if you're struggling as a personal trainer here, giving all this money to LA Fitness, why don't you just open up your own personal training studio? And I was like, I can do that? He goes, yeah. I was like, all right. And he, funded me the money. So eventually you might even come across someone who believes in you and believes in your vision and isn't going to shit on it like all your other managers did. And they're going to go, you know what? I'll actually fund you. I'll be the bank for you if I could be your business partner. And so he became my silent business partner in both High Tech Trainer and my gym's Premier Results. And that's kind of became the seed what years later becomes, the franchise, Fit Body Boot Camp, and spawns into Truly supplements, and now we have Equity and Fit Pro Tracker, right? The front desk management software for gyms, and it's a Cinderella story in the end, but it is a bloody, murderous, triumphant fight in the beginning decade that no one sees because it's just you. If you had a podcast, no one would be listening to it anyway because you're a nobody. And I was a nobody. But it's just you in the dark. So to answer your question, did I have resilience? I don't think I had resilience. I just felt like there was no other option. So I was like, you got to make it yourself, big boy, because you're unemployable. I dubbed myself unemployable. So I figured my only option is to build my own job. And so I guess that's resilience. When you have no other option, you just go, I can't quit, so I'll try creating another business and another one and another one.
Hell yeah. All right, the next question, as I'm listening to this right now, is a lot of entrepreneurs are like, all right, I don't know what problem I want to solve, what industry I want to get into. And for you, B, certainly you've launched your brand and coaching in a lot of different businesses, but a common theme is health, nutrition, personal development, self-mastery. When I look at your career, these are common themes, and the products and services, they change, ultimately they evolve, but they're all designed to give someone a better mindset, a physicality, a better life. So let's unpack that a little bit, and I want to hear a little bit more why that's important to you and really what the takeaway to the audience would be.
Yeah, good question. So when you look at all my businesses, even the shirt you're wearing and the shirt I'm wearing, right? Fuel Hunt. The whole idea there is when the guys, Joey and Drew, started Fuel Hunt, which I now own equity in, again, it's everybody wants to eat, but few will hunt.
Don't
you love that? Like, just everybody wants to be an entrepreneur until it's time to do entrepreneur shit, right? Work in the dark, late at night, on the weekends, on Fridays, Saturday, and Sundays. And I share that with you because when I think about whether it's the software, whether it's the supplements, Truly, Fit Body Boot Camp, the self-development programs like the Project and Squire program, the business coaching, it's all about improvement of an individual. Like, I don't think I'd ever go into, like, everyone's guaranteed to die. So obviously, making caskets, a mortuary, owning graveyards. That would be it's a good business.
Yeah, probably pretty lucrative too.
Very lucrative.
Shared that with me.
Yeah, I told you how much it cost for my mother's funeral, right?
Yeah.
But that's not I'm into the self-improvement world, like individuals who want to improve physically, mentally, emotionally, via health, intellectually, and so it is important that if you are going to be an entrepreneur, pick a genre, a space that you want to work in. And there's a lot of options in that. Like, let's say it's construction. It could be building homes, renovating homes, adding additions, building pools, turning, ugly looking backyards into beautiful resort type backyards. There's so many things to do just in construction, right? Or someone's like, I'm going to do industrial. Well, there's industrial like storage of warehouses. There's industrial refrigeration, like my coaching clients, Nick, the Sansone brothers, who we both now coach their CEO, John. But pick an industry, and there's so many things, and then do one thing to improve that industry. And then as you do the one thing to improve that industry, you then realize, oh, I made enough money where I could do another thing, a second thing, and a third thing, and a fourth thing. For me, it's about taking humans and making them better. whether it's by putting good nutritions in them, teaching them how to work out better habits and lifestyle and mindset. And it's all about the improvement of the human itself, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, nutritionally. And it's done well for me.
I think it certainly has. And you've impacted so many lives. We've impacted so many lives. But I think it's actually very tactical and practical advice too, kind of talking about the theme of entrepreneurship and how hard it is. The resistance is real. So it's not like woo-woo, oh, just follow your heart, your passion. It's like, no, figure out something that you really like, that you love, that when you get hit in the face 18 times, you're going to get up the 19th and the 20th and the 21st. So for me,
because you love it. Like
because you love it.
Yeah.
Because that has to be the core. Yeah. So for me, that's very practical advice.
Yeah.
The last kind of topic around this would just be the skill sets that you need to be able to acquire. And, leadership, marketing, salesmanship, these are the top three that come to my mind. So I wanted to give you the opportunity to break those down. When did you learn them? In what order did you learn them? And is there any other skill set that you would recommend someone listening or watching this right now before they jump into entrepreneurship to study up and have a good understanding of?
I guess when you're starting, and when you're starting, and you're going to be doing all the roles. So let's say someone, I know what we'll do. E-Myth, Michael Gerber.
Yeah.
Great book, right?
Oh, yeah.
So if you want to be an entrepreneur, consider buying the book E-Myth. I don't make a penny from it. It's not my book. It's Michael Gerber's book. Great book, E-Myth. But he talks about, I think the young lady's name is Sarah, and she makes really good pies. And anytime someone's having a birthday party, a dinner party, there's Thanksgiving, there's a Christmas, Sarah's bringing pies. And everyone talks about her pies. They all love her pies. And so like, Sarah, you should open up a bakery. And Sarah's like, you know what? Enough people have told me I should open up a bakery. Maybe I'll open up a bakery. So Sarah decides she's going to open up a bakery. And now she hates her life. She's miserable. She hates the whole process of like learning how to do everything. Because when she was making pies in her kitchen and taking it to people's homes, everybody was happy. When Sarah opened up a bakery, well, she had to sign a lease. She had to build it out. And all that cost money. She now has competition with other bakeries. Sarah must probably have to get an employee or two, right? And then Sarah has to learn how to market her bakery. And then Sarah has to deal with people who maybe, want to return their pie because they don't like how it tastes, or they say the pie got me sick, or the cost of goods went up. So now the price of pies went up, and Sarah has to tell her best customers that you have to pay $1.50 more per pie. And now her customers are mad at her. And those are all the things that Sarah did not realize was going to happen when she became an entrepreneur, when she opened up her bakery. So, but when we all start out, the skills you need are to make a good product or service, whatever your product or service might be, and then to learn to market and sell it. That's it. Because you're going to be doing the making, the marketing, and the selling of it, right? In other words, if it's Sarah the pie lady, she's going to make the pie. She's probably going to go to local businesses and tell them about her pies and, hey, send your customers to my pie shop and I'll give them a free sample and I'll give you guys a free sample. So that's the marketing. And when they come, she's selling, they want to buy a slice, she sells them a whole pie, right?
Sell, baby. Woo.
Yeah. Or they buy a pie, she sells them a second pie, right? Whatever it is. So you're going to be the deliverer of the product, the marketer of the product, and the salesperson. Okay, great. Then you get so busy, you're like, oh my God, I can't just keep like making the pies, marketing and selling. So I'm going to stay in the back and make the pies. I got to hire someone to start selling the pies. But I can make the pies and market the pies, but someone else has to sell them, but I'll teach them a skill. So now you didn't even realize you just became a leader, right? But you don't know how to lead this person. This person has different work ethic. They have different priorities in life because it's not their pie shop, it's your pie shop. So they might show up a little hungover. They might show up a little late. They may not really go for the upsell. Bryce wants to buy one slice. So, this young lady sells him one slice. But Bryce was supposed to be upsold by this young lady, like Sarah taught, but the young lady forgot to upsell Bryce. And so Bryce walked out with one slice of pie instead of 10. And so now Sarah's like, what the hell, right? And I got pies rotting on the shelf, and this is horrible. And so she has to now fire someone. She's like, I did not think that I was going to have to fire someone. When I wanted to open a pie shop, I just thought I would eventually grow, and I'd have a bunch of people working for me, and they would all be happy, and we would eat pie in between clients and customers. And then we would all celebrate. I didn't realize I was going to be in the business of firing people. I didn't become a boss to fire, but now she's a leader and she has to communicate. And she has to communicate why I have to part ways with you. And it's not a good feeling, but you're not that smart. You don't know how to upgrade and upsell. And so I'm going to have to part ways. And So now she has to be a leader. She has to communicate. But then she gets so busy, she hires a third or fourth or fifth person. And now a couple of those two people are having a little relationship because the boy likes the girl and the girl likes the boy. And now she has to write them up. And I didn't know how to write people up. And now somebody showed up late. And now somebody wants to take a little vacation. And so, well, how do you? Oh, taxes. I got to pay taxes. So now I got to do accounting.
Figure out finance and bookkeeping. What
right.
the heck?
What's a P&L report, Bryce? I don't know what. I just want to make pies. But now the pie shop across the street, they turned into a franchise. They just announced they're franchising, Bryce, and they got funded. What's funding? Oh, you mean they got $5 million to open up 10 more pie stores within a 20-mile radius? They're going to compete against my one little Sarah's pie shop? This is scary. So you start by making the product, marketing and selling the product. Then you go into becoming a leader and learning how to communicate. Then you... As much as we all hate it, we have to learn to hire and fire. Yeah, and when you hire, you might hire the wrong people, even though everyone puts their best.
Might, you will.
Yeah, you will. And then you will fire people, and then you will have to learn accounting at some point, and then you'll have to hire accountants at some point and do a P&L report and learn how to deal with anxiety and stress. And so you are going to have to level up your personal development, right? And so you'll have to, when the pie shop who's competing against you gets funded and they're going to franchise and they announce, hey, we're going to become a franchise, you have to go, all right, what makes me better than them? If they're going to be the cookie cutter McDonald's, how can I be that one burger joint that's so much better than the cookie cutter chain of McDonald's is, right? How can I make myself so exceptional, so unique? What differentiates me? And that's when now Sarah all of a sudden start thinking alchemy and new levels. And now maybe Sarah one day has a customer who's a millionaire. And the customer goes, hey, I saw that pie shop who competes against you, they became a franchise and they opened up. Instead of becoming a franchise, would you want to just open up a chain? I'll fund you. I'll be your business partner. I mean, that's how Jim Franco ended up funding me, right? And I opened up 5 gyms and then ultimately sold them. And so soon, Sarah now has to learn about running a chain of gyms. So now she has to clone herself through other people and manage other managers. So she's learning leadership and management skills. And she's learning how to have meetings and orchestrate meetings and come up with new ideas. And so all these new skills that we develop, it's such a personal development journey. Wow. I've once, I think it was Tony Robbins that said, entrepreneurship is the highest form of personal development because the longer you stay in it, the more you push yourself to grow and to succeed as an entrepreneur. You're forced to develop and acquire new skills and traits and habits and beliefs and to test your risk-taking abilities and your patience and your communication skills. And in that time, you become a more stoic and understanding person, and you become a more impatient person because you can see through shit. So when someone starts talking to you in gobbledygook language, like giving you excuses, you're like, you're fired. Like, not because you're heartless, but you see the shit before it ever comes.
See around the corners.
You see around corners. Sarah just needs to stay in the trenches long enough to become that savage, battle-hardened entrepreneur. And then Sarah needs to realize that I'm no longer a pie maker. I'm an entrepreneur that sells pie. I'm an entrepreneur that sells physical, fitness, emotional, mental transformation. Someone else might be an entrepreneur that sells caskets and grave plots, right? So you go from a casket maker to an entrepreneur. You go from a pie maker to an entrepreneur. You go from a personal trainer to an entrepreneur. And when you have that shift, that my number one role is an entrepreneur, and I have a responsibility to sell a product or a service, now you understand. You've like the matrix has opened up to you. Yeah.
The mic drop, my dude. That was incredible. Number one, I'm laughing, engaging because one, you're just an incredible storyteller. It's freaking hilarious to listen to. Number two, that book by Sarah or by Michael Gerber, Sarah. Yeah. I mean, that's a real entrepreneur, E-Myth. That's a real entrepreneur journey. And number three, I'm Sarah, and just the physical, personal training, coaching space, working with you, developing all those skill sets, building brand and franchise. That whole story literally just describes the entrepreneur journey, my journey, and working with you. And it's just absolutely gold and absolutely true.
Imagine the privilege that I have the last, is it 5 years, 6 years now we've been working in this building together?
Yeah, this is 2025. We started working together in this building in 2018. So 7
years.
Now. Yeah.
So remember, you started then, you had a lot of time on your hands, more time than you do now.
Oh, yeah.
And to see your journey over the last 7 years, I see how, I'm going to use the word ruthless, but in our world, ruthless is good in many ways.
I think it's a good thing.
You don't take shit. You see around corners. You stop people because you already understood. They don't need to say 10 more sentences because they've got a whole dissertation to say. You stop them by hearing 2 sentences, and you already know the answer, the decision you've already made. And when I see that growth and development, how quickly you process through things, the things that would scare you and flare you up, and I'd get a text message from you back 6-7 years ago. Now it's like, it doesn't even faze you.
Yeah.
Big problems don't faze you. And it's because you stayed in the trench, you stayed in the fight, you developed a thick rhino skin, right? Whoa. That rhino skin is important to develop, and it's only developed under time, under tension. That's what we need.
Mike dropped, my dude. Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate you. Incredible word picture of the truth of the entrepreneurial journey and also the skill sets, the mindset, and that rhino skin that you need to develop. So as we close out today, anything left to add value to the audience?
Well, I think one of the greatest values that we can leave to the audience is, look what you and I have been through just through the growth of Fit Body Bootcamp. You and I both love fitness.
Oh, I love it.
Fitness has changed both of our lives.
It's the foundation.
Yeah, not just physically, but it's changed us in who we are to our core, right? How we show up to our families.
Oh, yeah.
How we serve humanity. And because of that, we picked an industry that we're so passionate about that when hard times came, when our competitors got funded, we stayed in the fight. When pandemic came, and the pandemic in 2020, the greatest attack the pandemic had was on gyms and restaurants. We stayed in the fight. We stayed in the fight. We stayed in the fight.
Here we are, 5 years, cranking away.
Yeah, and I'm not saying this to pat us on the back, but what I'm telling people is, yeah, there's all these skills and traits you can develop. Those are all good. Plenty of entrepreneurial skills and traits and habits and beliefs to develop. But there's also something to be said about just staying in the fight. And you can only stay in a fight that you believe in. And so when you take on a business venture just for the money, when things start getting sketchy and hard, it's easy to quit because you did it just for the money. You're not passionate about the industry, right? But if you're truly passionate about the industry, that thing that you're trying to sell and grow has changed and transformed your life, you will stay in the fight through the thick and the thin. And when you stay in the fight long enough because you believe in the product or the service, you will become a winner. It's just a byproduct of staying in the fight is winning. You can outlast anybody. It's durability. And I think we have that because we've chosen an industry that we love, live, and breathe.
And we truly believe because it's rocked us to our core and we're able to give that gift to others.
Yeah, and I think that's the big takeaway that everyone needs to take from here is like you can stay in the fight longer than you think if you love what you're doing.
Well, my dude, I think that's a wrap for today. I appreciate you. And friends, I know you got value today. Like, subscribe, and drop your biggest takeaway in the comment. And remember, adversity is your advantage. We'll see you in the next episode.